Y'all, there was so much to discuss about dating that I decided to do a part two. I'm sure there might be a couple other parts after this one, only because if you're anything like me, you are still in a process where you're trying to figure it out. Y'all, I don't have it figured out. I'm going to just share my experiences and share my learnings, and hopefully it can help somebody. So, again, this is just going to be a part two. But first, my name is Melanie, and I'm so glad you're here. My channel is all about thriving after divorce. I ask that you subscribe and hit the notification so you know when I'm dropping videos. And by the way, yes, I've been gone for a couple of weeks because I was on vacation because typically I do post every single Sunday. Finally, if you can, please leave a comment and let me know what you think about the video, or just share your experiences, or share what you'd like for me to talk about next. So let's go ahead and get into dating after divorce. Part two. Well, some of you already know I've been divorced going on 6 years now, and it has been a bit of a struggle trying to navigate the world of dating. And I know some people are going to say, but almost 6 years, like, how don't you have it figured out? The reason why I don't have it figured out is because I have had a habit, and still do, and I'm trying to work through it. I've had a habit of prematurely taking myself off the market. What does that look like? Basically, what that means is either I've been in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in because I stayed in it way too long, or if I meet somebody, I will immediately take myself off the market and not like keep a roster. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the reason why I would do that is I would just get really frustrated with the process of dating. I would get frustrated with the rules. I would get frustrated with the people actually in the dating pool itself, not realizing that many of those things weren't the problem. The problem was me because I didn't know how to make it work for me. The way I thought I would share this conversation today is I'm going to move through it in 5 areas that I've been focusing on. So, the first space that I needed to learn how to navigate in is I needed to learn who I was, because I had been married for 15 years, and I did a video several weeks back around self confidence after divorce because I really struggled with that. But I knew that I had to go back to therapy and seek some level of guidance and help, only because the relationship that I got into immediately after my divorce, it wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't that the person wasn't nice or kind or anything like that. He absolutely was, but he just wasn't the right person for me. But what I realized was everything that I had a hole in, all of my insecurities, he was able to fill those gaps very, very well. So if I was insecure about something, if I had low self-esteem about something, like, he could speak into me really well. But the problem is we weren't compatible. We didn't have longevity. It was a complete mismatch and a complete misalignment. But he spoke to those broken, wounded parts of me. And one time he actually said, Melanie, if you were emotionally healthy, you wouldn't be with me. I can't forget how powerful that was when I heard it. But that was the main reason I decided to go back to therapy, because he was 1000% right. Once I got into a space where I started feeling good and comfortable in my skin, that's when my vision was more clear about who he was and who I was, and that we're probably going to be better off not being in a relationship. And so that's how that relationship ended. But the first thing is you've got to know who you are, and you got to be really comfortable with yourself. The second area of focus that I've really been leaning into is understanding my needs versus my wants. The way that I look at this is my wants are those things that they're the nice to haves. I love to be with somebody over 6 feet tall. I love to be with somebody that has the same taste in music. I'd love to be with somebody uh, that's a wonderful cook and they love cooking all the time versus me cooking all the time. Those things are my wants. But those things that are my needs, my core, are they a good person? Do we have the same values? Do we look at finances the same way? Do we look at family the same way? Those are things that are cores for me that just won't change. Therefore, my needs and my wants almost become like a GPS system in order to help me get and locate that right person for me. So an example is I was dating this one guy. We'll just call him EVP because my friend always has to name everybody. So I was dating this one particular guy, the EVP, and on paper, wonderful. Highly educated, very successful, great career. And I remember I used to always say I didn't want to date anybody that had kids younger than mine because there's too many complications. And also, once I'm an empty nester, I want to be an empty nester. And he didn't. All his, kids, they were older and things like that. And so again, you would think that it'd be really perfect. But the challenge in that particular connection was what's important to me is, are you an effective and a good communicator? What's important to me is, do you make time for me? And when I saw that those two things just kept having misfires, then I realized, okay, this is probably not the person for you. And as many excuses as you're trying to make for him, if he wanted to, he would. Dot, dot, dot. The other piece is I had to really say, do I want marriage? Do I want a commitment? Or do I want companionship? Because all three of those things are very different. The challenge that I've had is depending on who I'm with, that depends on where I fall in those three. And that is absolutely the wrong space for me to be in. So I really have to sit back and say, what do you want? Because whatever I want is what's going to be put into my life, right? So if I want marriage, then somebody who wants to get married will be in my life. So I really have to say, Melanie, stick to what you want and stick to what you need. Number 3, I had to learn how to pace myself. Y'all, I'm still not there yet. I'm still working on this one too. The reason why this is important to me is because I have a desire to be in the dating market for such a little time. And so therefore, that very first conversation that I have, and if it sounds good, I'm already on the phone with my girl talking about, oh my God, he's great, da da da. And she's like, wait, slow your roll, slow your roll, slow your roll, right? And so I'm having to learn how to slow down. I have to learn how to make sure that they are earning me. I have to make sure that they are earning my trust. They're earning my respect. I have to get to know them. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes you can have that first conversation or those first couple of conversations and really feel like you've got this connection. And in actuality, it's excitement and it's butterflies, but you don't really know the person. So I had to learn how to slow down and just pace myself in the entire process. One of the things that I feel will help me do this better, and again, my girl, she would tell me this all the time. She was like, you need to get a roster. And I would tell her, I say, look, I'm just not a roster person. I don't like it. I find that it's a lot of work. I find that I don't necessarily want to give that many people my time. And so I've really steered away from rosters for that particular reason. However, it might be a mistake in my case. I may need to dust a roster off and keep it moving. And here's why I say that. If I want really great abs, I can read resources about how to get good abs. I can understand the science behind it. But unless I'm actually going to the gym and putting in the work, I'm never going to get the abs. It's like I know what I want, but I'm not really putting the work in it to get what I want. And I think the roster kind of helps you to do that because, again, it reminds me of my old banking days when I was in sales and we used to have call parties. You might make 50 calls that night. You might have 5 sales. But the reason that you did, because you had a whole bunch of lead generations, right? And so it's all about leads. And that's really what the roster is how can I cast this wide net in order to filter it down to get to those really specific things that are my cores and my needs and my wants in someone. So again, it's going to be important for me to actually put all of the theory into practice instead of assuming that somebody's going to come and knock on my front door and be the complete package. It kind of doesn't work like that. Even though I wanted to, it doesn't. So I'm going to have to put the work in, and the roster is actually really you putting the work in. The fourth thing that I'm really trying to focus on is keeping trusted voices around me, right? Look, I am an Aquarius, so I'm always in my own head and I can do my own thing all the time. And that is good. And I want to always be an individual. I always want to listen to my gut and do what works well for me. There's so many scriptures about this. Plans succeed through wise counsel, right? And so it's good to have other perspectives because sometimes we can have some rose colored glasses. Sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. And it really does require us to connect to somebody that looks at the world slightly differently. So it's important for me to keep my friends around. It's important for me to talk to some of my guy friends, say, hey, what do you think about this? It's important for me to go back to my therapist on a regular basis or whenever and just recalibrate to make sure that I'm still thinking about things in the right way, not only for dating, but for my life in general, right? And so, again, it's really important to make sure that we're keeping those trusted voices in our lives. The fifth and final thing, which is actually new for me, is I am learning how to be my own CEO in my dating life. For years, I would always say, if my personal life was half as good as my professional life, I'd be killing it right now, right? And so then I had to say, okay, but why isn't it? I have always operated under the guise of who you are at work is work and who you are at home is home. But the more I think about it, the reason that I'm successful in the ways that I'm successful is because it's just my natural personality. So sometimes I think that we can cut off our nose to spite our face because people have told us to tone it down. But in actuality, I think it's kind of odd because the things that's made me successful in my career are truly just my personality. Those are the things that I do without exerting much energy. So why am I not taking those skills and those characteristics and applying it to my personal life, right? And the person that is right for me will gravitate towards that. And so that's how I'm looking at it now. So here's another analogy that's in my head about the dating world and why it's been such a challenge, but also why you need a plan and a strategy to move through it. So, as I shared before, I was in a marriage for 15 years. It was a successful marriage for 15 years until it wasn't. And then we separated, went our own ways. But imagine working at an organization for 15 years. You know the ins and outs. You know the players. You know how to navigate through the organization. You know how to get stuff done. Now, when you leave and go to a new job, you don't know where the bathroom is. You don't know where the cafeteria is. You don't know who the power players are. And it's like you've got to figure all of that out all over again. It's almost like if you ever see a newborn baby calf, they're trying to figure out how to walk. That's how it felt to me, or that's how it feels to me. So that's one reason why I say I do know that it's important to have a plan. I do know it's important to have a strategy because if I'm equating it to the workforce, that's the same thing we do in the workforce, right? What's your plan? What's your strategy? How are you going to assimilate, right? And while this is going to sound a little tongue in cheeky, but bear with me, so hang tight. It is kind of similar to interviewing somebody, right? Some people are going to interview very, very well. Some people, they're going to say the right thing. They're going to look good in a suit. They're just going to be really great. But the question is, can they perform? And if they can they perform over the long haul? There's a reason why there's a 90-day probationary period in your job, right? Because anybody can be good for 90 days, but do they have longevity, right? And so that's how I'm looking at it now. And if for any reason I need to keep the role open until I find the right person, I'm not going to fill the job just to fill the job. You know what I mean? If I need to have a temp in there or the roster, if I need to have a temp in there in the meantime until the right person can be found to fill the role permanently, then get a temp, get a contractor, do whatever you need to do, right? Because the show must go on. You don't want to stop, but you also don't want to commit to somebody that's just not going to be a good fit for you over the long haul. So ultimately, when I find the right person, I'll know it. Because do relationships take effort and energy? Yes, they do take effort and energy, but they are not supposed to be hard. They are not supposed to be difficult. They are not supposed to be challenging. If a relationship is hard, difficult, challenging on a regular, inconsistent basis, it's the wrong one. And that's what I'm learning. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm sure there's going to be a part 3 on something because there's a whole bunch that I'm still learning in this space. I hope that you guys continue this journey with me. Please, please, please leave any comments down below. Tell me about your journey. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you love for me to share with you guys next. I got a few ideas, but I'd like to hear what you guys think. And again, don't forget to subscribe. Okay? All right. Talk to you later. Bye.